Well, good afternoon, class. I just thought I would give you a quick video, have some office hours today, and so you can join in anytime. I don't have any students currently joined in, so maybe I miscommunicated some stuff, but my intent is to, moving forward, is to have a couple of lectures a week and some time for discussion because I know not everyone with their situation has access to uh, streaming internet. Uh, but if you are available, I'd love for you to join on at least so I can hear how you're doing, and also uh, you can see my beautiful face, because that's important. If you can't, don't worry. I know that schedules have changed and whatnot, so this will be posted on our lecture portion of Blackboard. But I did want to give you an option for that because I know some people really, uh, you know, appreciate being engaged. So moving forward, if you want to join the meeting, that's fine. You don't have to get my permission or anything. You can just click on the link. So for my emails, as you may have seen, uh, I've got, let me go ahead and share my screen with y'all. Okay. So at the bottom of my signature, I've got the Zoom meeting, and you can just click on that and it'll take you to the meeting. So you want to check and make sure that your settings are correct. So I'll stop sharing that screen now so you can see me again. You want to make sure that your settings are correct. So on there is a microphone button that you can turn on and off. Obviously, that allows you to speak. If you can't hear anything, you can do a troubleshooting and test to make sure you can figure out how to do that. Uh, you got speakers on there as well, obviously, if you want to mute or adjust the sound. So for my system, I didn't know I had several microphones and several speakers, and I have a couple of plugins. So you got to make sure you find the right one. So if you're asking something and I don't stop, it's not because I'm being rude and just talking over you. It's probably because I cannot hear you. So you want to double check and make sure. So if you can't, I'm going to obviously be on the computer so you can send an email and I'll get that and I'll check those as I'm broadcasting. But also just wanted to see, I'm going to put on a chat. There's a chat button so you can type messages here. So I'm going to type something here. I'm just going to say hello to everyone. And so hopefully that will have either popped up on your screen or you may not, you may have seen that. And if you're there, you can respond. Oh, looks like I've got Mr. Anderson joined on. So hello, Landon. Hope all is well. So we are hopefully going to get familiar with how to do this Zoom. I know that everyone's connection isn't good enough to do it live, so don't feel upset. I'm also going to be posting a discussion board, so I don't want to like overwhelm you with multiple things to do for the rest of the semester. That's not my intent. I actually am quite aware that many of you have less time to focus for academics, and quite personally, I do too. I've got a lot of other things going on and other responsibilities now that have changed. That's okay. So we're just going to adapt and overcome the situation. So with that being said, uh, check out the other video that I posted last Friday about how we're going to kind of move forward and with grading and with that other, what do we got? End of semester coronavirus disruption grading scheme. So don't worry about telling me. You don't need to tell me what you're planning on doing. It doesn't matter for this class. I'm not going to say I don't care. It doesn't matter for this course. You do that at the end, and that you don't even have to tell the instructor what you're doing, right? You calculate your score. If you need help with that, let me know, and we'll get that going. So I have a couple of sites that I've been looking at, and I want to share these with you, right? We're in global health. And we haven't talked about the coronavirus at all this semester. It was before spring break that I mentioned that we're talking more about it. And lo and behold, it just blew up literally over spring break and all these guidelines coming down. And I think it's really interesting and quite pertinent for this course. So I think we have a good basis and background for how international governments work, at least an introduction to that, and how different systems affect the global burden of disease. So when we look at, or when we think about coronavirus, that's a burden of disease, right? So we really want to think about what's going on globally. But let's go ahead and look locally first, because we were meeting in class, and so I want to make sure that you guys kind of know what's going on, and we can see what the United States is doing, and then we'll spread out from there. So I'm at the coronavirus.health.ok.gov site to start out with. And now I've signed up for information, so I get an email every day. Let me see if that links up here. So I am I'm going to compare the differences between some places and see how we're getting information out. So we've got a call center here, which is great for the state. And some information about respirators. Okay, here's the get email updates. If you're interested, I would encourage you, right? You can see my emails. I have so many emails that I type in things. But sign up if you want to, and every day you're going to get an email update that lets you know the numbers. And then you can click to find this website from there. But it will tell you what's going on in Oklahoma. So let's go ahead and look at our current situation. All right, it kind of talks about this, and then this is some blanket information pretty much copied straight from CDC and talks about what the coronavirus is. Then we go into what we really want to know is how many positive tests we had in our state, 565. Well, what was that? Is that new or not? Is that a lot of cases? It's interesting, 565. What happened with them? Well, 2 of them were out of state. Then the rest of them, that means that the rest were local transmission. We had negative of 1,229 cases. We've got an asterisk here. Negative testings are only from the state public health department and do not include private laboratory negative results. Okay. So, meaning we've got, if you remember back in EPI, we've got some sensitivity issues and some specificity issues with these tests, meaning that is it actually, it's probably pretty sensitive. It detects coronavirus, but with the specificity, does it actually tell you if it's a true positive or a false positive? We don't know that really well right now. So some of the testing from the the state public health lab, right, Oklahoma DHL, we've got they're doing some cultures, and so they run a culture on it, and they actually it's not a culture, excuse me. They do a PCR, and it's very slow. It takes about anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to run. They run them once a day, and it's pretty definitive if there's live virus there. Now, some of these, so that's why they're only including negative testings from the state health lab, because some of the private labs may be saying, oh, we didn't get any negative results because they did a different type of test that may not be as far-reaching scientifically, right, or biologically to determine what is if there is virus there. So they're not including those. So they set that standard there. It's pretty conservative. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Well, the issue is for our state is that we've only got 565 positive cases and only 1,200 negative cases. So that means only 1,700 people have been tested out of what, 3.5 million people? That seems kind of small. We really have no idea how many cases there are in Oklahoma. Okay, so that's a critique of mine. But at least they're telling us who's doing the testing. So we've got 109 cases. Well, there's only 148. These are positive cases, is what this should say, right? 565 matches with that. So how many negative cases are? They don't include that because they're only up here. So it's a little confusing already. Anyway, then we've got it by age groups. Good news is there's no young children, no adolescents, and no none of our age groups people have died yet. But we have had, I believe it was a 40-year-old man in Oklahoma County passed away. So that was the youngest. And then it starts to increase as our age goes up. And 65 and plus, which is quite a large age group, right? We've got many people living way past in their 80s. So that's an interesting age group. I'd love these numbers to be a little bit more defined, but HIPAA violation or HIPAA rules concerns may keep that from happening. But 23 deaths out of 565 cases. So let's see. Let me clear this out. I love to use my calculator all the time, so I'm going to pop that up. So what did it say? 23 divided by 565, if I can remember right. I have a really really bad short-term memory, and it's getting worse. So we got a mortality rate of 4%. I believe that to be a little higher than what it was nationally. So that I wonder if those numbers are accurate. But let's look at these compare these age ranges, which I think is really kind of critical here. I can figure out how to, there we go, make this a little smaller. All right, so let's calculate them for, we'll break it out for each of these categories here. So 1 for our 35 to 49-year-olds, and we had 108, 108. Oops, that's 408. Okay, so less than 1%. We could kind of do that in our heads probably. Let's see, 6 and 155. 6 divided by 155. Oops. So about a 4%. That's probably representative to the state numbers overall. Okay, let's go to the next age group. 65 plus. 16 divided by 199. Oh, we got 8. So it's doubled in that elderly group, 65 and over. So when we think about public health, what are our goals for public health? We want to provide the opportunity for everyone to live a healthy life and to remove disparities, right? We want to essentially equal the burden of disease. We want to minimize it, obviously, but we want it to be equal for all people. We're seeing here that the elderly are dying at twice the rate of the next highest group, and that the young children really aren't being affected necessarily by severe cases and deaths, which is a great thing. Biologically, it's really interesting why that happens. They found that actually kids, infants and daycare age kids, they are actually they have the viral load, but they're not having symptoms like these pneumatic symptoms that the elderly, most of the elderly that pass away from this, get pneumonia and they pass away from that. It's brought on by coronavirus disease, but same thing with flu. Most of the deaths due to flu are actually classified as pneumonia and flu. So here in the United States, so it's kind of interesting. All right, so let's continue to scroll down. I don't want to get hung up too much. We got the median age being 58. Okay, so that means us college age kids, I say us, y'all college age kids don't need to worry about it, right? Well, that's not true. So you may not need to worry about this, but do you know anyone who might be close to the age of 58? Maybe your parents, maybe your grandparents, maybe you got some friends, maybe their parents. So you can spread it to those. And we use this term asymptomatic as being showing no symptoms, but spreading it. And I don't know that those are, that term is really accurate. It's really more likely, in this case, it's going to be pre-symptomatic. You're going to have no symptoms for 2 days and being very infectious before your symptoms present. You will end up presenting symptoms, and sometimes your symptoms may be smaller, just a small cough, some nausea, a little fever, some chills perhaps, and it could just maybe even just for half a day and then you're over it. But you can still spread it to others. So that's why we have the shelter in place idea going around. All right, let's continue to look at Oklahoma statistics. We've got cases by gender. Okay, so it looks here, the deaths are a little bit more for the males so far. In fact, quite a bit more. Let's look at the comparison. If we could get our calculator out again, if I can find my awesome link. Did I remove it? Oh, there it is. Couldn't see for a second. All right, let's see. We've got 9 over 290. Okay, so 3%. We'll clear that out. And we got 14 over 275. 5%. So a little less than 4, and we got 5%. So it's fairly close, or it's actually 3 to 5. Okay. It's almost doubled. These are still pretty low numbers. I would love to see. I don't want to see more deaths, but I'd love to see the cases actually being higher than that, so we can actually get a true comparison. Because I feel that only the very sick are actually getting tested. Okay, now let's look down here by county. It's kind of interesting. So here's another thing that we could do when we look at this globally, and when we compare different uh, states, different countries. If we think about it by the United Nations member states, compare those to each other. Where we want to look at it's the same. It's the same idea. How many cases? How many deaths? How many people? Well, wouldn't that be nice to have in this? So, number of people by county, and then compare those by case, and then we could actually have a morbidity rate, and then you could have a mortality rate. Wouldn't that be pretty relevant? I wish that they would do that, but you know, they don't want to mislead them because they are quite aware that their testing is not reflective of how many cases are actually there. Okay, and so continue to scrolling down, we've got this map of the state here, and then these are where the deaths are. They used to have uh, counties that were infected, but that has since gone. Okay, so here, and if you want to get the legend, right, they used to have that there, but they've now no longer including that. Oops, turn this legend off. All right. So you can play around this if you want to. You can zoom in and see. I mean, it's not really much more definition, but you can mess around with that. Okay, this is something that is new and it's nice because it actually shows a little bit of a trend. Because this used to just be in table format and they used to not have this graph, and so they've included that, and we've seen we had the first case came into Oklahoma. It was a travel related. The individual went to Italy, came back. It was in Tulsa County. Uh, he or she also was with the same group. Another person came back, uh, and one of those individuals has since passed away, and one of them survived. But they had some spread. I don't believe it was all a cluster from that because they did a pretty good job of isolating themselves. There's been other travel from other states coming around, and then people going out to other states. And then let's kind of see where spring break kind of ended around uh, close to this time here. And then look what happened after spring break. According to this graph, it just really kind of shot up. A lot of people have been spreading, and no one listened. What happened? No one listened to the guidelines at that time, and everyone just spread it. But they didn't have symptoms, and they just spread it, and it's still spreading today. Uh, oh, I forgot. As we look, we've got 5 cases now in Pontotoc County. It's pretty much overrunning um, the state. The reason they don't have a the states highlighted, or the counties, excuse me, highlighted as for how many cases there are. Let's see. I don't know as 100% sure today, but I'm going to quickly copy. Uh, I'm just going to bring in Excel because I don't know if I haven't done this yet. I'm going to just paste all that. And let's see how many states we've got. 47. Okay, so we got 77 counties, 77 counties in Oklahoma. So 47 of the 77 have been infected. We've got infections going on. So more than half. And obviously, the largely populated counties are being affected. So we've got Canadian, Cleveland. Where's Cleveland? Oklahoma. Pawnee is one of the first places that had it, then Tulsa and surrounding counties. So obviously, It doesn't look like we're having any epicenters so much in Oklahoma, but everyone just kind of spreads it around, and we share the love here in Oklahoma, which is nice. All right. I'm going to get off this. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video temporarily, and what I'm not going to stop the meeting, but I'm just going to stop my meeting or stop my video so I can save this as one, and I don't have to split it up later. So I'm going to stop my recording.